Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Tea with Tiffany. Still having computer problems, um, but we are managing here. So I hope everybody's good. Happy Hump Day. It's today Wednesday. Hey, Brooke. Gosh, I haven't seen you in a long time. How are you? Thanks for watching. Hey, Andy. Good morning. Um, We got we're still working on Reflections of a Man. Excuse me. Um, hmm. This is our last week of reading the book. Matt's going to be on at some point before the end of the week. We're just not sure what day. Hey, Alka, how are you? Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining today. Um, I want to I want to apologize for those who watched the replay and for those who were on yesterday. I kind of fell apart. Um, Talking about, my son leaving for college, and I, you know, it's just such an emotional time. I'm not going to talk about it again today because I don't want to be in tears all over again. Um, but thank you for just listening and for lending an ear, and for, all the texts and emails that I got afterwards. I appreciate it. It's just, it's just hard. This is a normal thing, that we as parents go through when we have a child going off to school. And it's real. They're raw emotions. Um, so thank you so much. Brooks says, I'm doing okay. Just got married and we are in our first home, just doing our thing. How have you been? Oh my gosh, I'm doing great. And I'm so excited for you. How's the baby? I know he's like so big now. Um, that is so awesome. That's so awesome. And I'm so proud of you, Brooke. I know you've been through, quite a bit in your life, and I'm so happy that you're happy. That's a beautiful thing. So, message me and tell me what's happening in your life. I'd be excited to hear how you're doing. Um, Andy says you didn't fall apart. You're keeping it real. Yeah, I'm all about that, right? But I did kind of, I don't, whoever likes to go on a Facebook Live and start crying. That wasn't my intention, but, whenever I talk about my kids, it's tears of joy well, mainly tears of joy, never tears of pain. But sometimes we cry for our kids too. My kids have made me very, very proud. Alka, what's happening with you? What's happening? I try to follow you on Facebook. What's going on in your life? Where are you? Are you still in? I think you were in Atlanta the last time we talked. Are you still there? You have the school. Tell me what's happening. I'd be very excited to hear what's going on in your life. Um, we start out, those of you who watch, and I think everybody that's on here live this morning have either, watched me live before or um, been on the replay, so you kind of know the drill here. We start every morning off with a prayer, and I generally do some announcements if I have any announcements. My summer's been so crazy, so I don't have a whole lot of announcements, other than I'm just kind of going nuts. Hey, Dee Dee, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining. So we're gonna, start our morning out with a morning prayer, and I think this prayer is really important, especially now that we are, just trying to deal with COVID and everything that comes with it. So this is a prayer for people who are living with mental illness, because right now during COVID, if you suffer from depression or, any type of mental illness, it's probably very magnified right now. Um, and I've been seeing, I think I mentioned a story one day when about a man who lost his child, to depression. And there's just so many crazy things happening right now. Hey Sandra, good morning, thanks for joining this morning. I know you've been working like crazy. I'm happy to see you. I've missed you over the last couple of weeks. But thanks for being on this morning. Um, but yeah, we've lost a lot of people to COVID, but I think we've lost even more people to mental illness and depression. And I think it's important to pray, for those people. So let us pray. I found a prayer here. It's kind of a lengthy one, but I think it's important to read today. Um, and and just think about those people who are suffering right now from mental illness, and keep them in our hearts and our prayers. All right, let us pray. Loving God, I pray for all whose brains have been hurt by disease, injury, stress, trauma, and other factors of human life in this hard world. I pray for all um, who love them and want to help them. I pray for your comfort in their grief, their hope amid loss, and the balm of community with people who understand. For people with mental illness, may they find hope in you and feel your longing for them. For parents of children with mental health or mental illness, may they know the limits of their power both to cause and to cure. For children of parents with mental illness, may they know you as a loving parent and find places where they can grow up in safety no matter how old they are. For friends of suffering people, may they resist the temptation to try and fix their friends and recognize the simple power of their loving presence. For spiritual leaders, may they deny both helplessness and overconfidence, courageously serving as first responders and faithful shepherds. For people who need treatment and don't receive it, may they recognize their need, believe life can be better, and find people who can help. For those burdened by shame and stigma, may they walk in the light and find compassionate people. Lord, I pray for the light in the darkness. I pray that people with vulnerable minds will find hope and help among followers of Christ who will love them and point them towards what they need while letting them live with that need. I pray for acceptance and grace, the same kind of grace you offer so freely to all. I pray that many churches will embrace the opportunity for messy and sometimes thankless ministry among the marginalized in the name of the one whose love knows no margins. I pray this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Hey, Lacey. How are you? Thanks for watching. Andy says, oh my gosh, I needed to get that prayer this morning. Thank you. Yeah, this was a deep one. And, there are many people in my life that I know that suffer from mental illness. I'll be honest, because again, I try to be very as transparent as I can be. I don't like to air all of my dirty laundry, but I myself have suffered from depression, and it's an ugly beast. It really is. And you just never know where people are in their lives, and you have to pray for them, you know and I felt the need to pray for those who are suffering right now. um and just, if you are suffering, anyone, on this live, or have a family member or a friend who's suffering, just take a moment to pray for them, because I truly believe that in all cases, prayer is the only thing that can help. You know, it wasn't until, I mean, I had gone to counseling. Talk therapy does work, you know, especially if it's spiritual talk therapy, where you bring God into the conversation. I feel, for me, that was very, very helpful to try and deal with some of the things that were paining me in my life. And it was a good thing. Prayer is always good. Finding God is always good. And those who are unable to find God, you know, bring God to them if you can. That's what I ask for today. Um, all right. So I'm still having computer issues from yesterday. Whoopsie. And I want to finish, like I said, this week we are going to finish up Reflections of a Man. And so I took a screenshot of one of the excerpts today on my computer, since I can't, for some reason, be on my computer on the camera. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Hold on, guys. What the... Did I lose it? I did lose it, didn't I? All right. Hold, please. When I did this screenshot, oh gosh, now I can't even see it. Oh, it's going to be a doozy today, people. All right, let's see if I can make this just a tad bit bigger so I can see it. All right. Okay. Okay. Today's excerpt, and I'm just going to keep it to one because of the technical difficulty that I've had. And then generally our conversations go off into other tangents anyway. So I'm sure there's enough content here to keep us on until 9 o'clock. Today, on Reflections of a Man, it says, forgive for your sake. Forgive for your sake. Let me read it, and forgive me for this being so... Oh, okay, so I can pinch it here. All right, I'm a mess, guys, sorry. All right, here we go. When you forgive, you don't do it for the other person's sake. You do it for your own sanity and peace of mind. In the end, when you hold on to your anger, you're hurting no one but yourself. Meanwhile, they go about living their life as they wish, while your anger and resentment allow them to continue to ruin yours. You, in essence, have become the surrogate to all of the pain, all of the frustration and the heartache that they once caused you. Now they don't need to do anything but sit back, enjoy their life, and watch you be miserable. It doesn't have to be that way. You can take that power away from them simply by forgiving them and letting it go. I'm not saying that you have to forget. Don't forget. Forgetting what they've done would erase the memory, and in the memory is where you find the lesson. However, forgiving removes the weight of the past from your shoulders and allows you to move forward without them. The past is what it is. You can't change it. What you can do is learn from it and use that to make better decisions in the future. Will it be easy? No. Will you have your moments? Yes. But over time, you will find peace in knowing that they no longer have that power over you. Now, when you see them, you can finally smile and say to yourself, I'm finally free from you. What do you guys think about that? I agree. I agree with what Mr. Amari is saying here. Um, we talked on a previous live about forgive and forget, and what that actually means. And you know, I've been guilty of this myself, so I feel like I can speak to it and speak to it fairly, because holding on to resentment only makes your life miserable. I think many of you can agree with that. It you can't you feel trapped, and it's a prison. You feel trapped in a prison, and it's a prison that you've created for yourself, you know, because while you're being angry and hurt and all of these things, the other person has moved on. They've moved on to the next person to terrorize, or they've moved on, to just whatever it is that they're doing in life. And you, by holding those grudges and not being able to forgive, you create this cell, this box that you become trapped in. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy for anybody. Let's talk about that with love, for instance. You're in a relationship, right? And you hold on, your spouse, your significant other, someone, who you love very much. It could just even be a friend, and you've betrayed the relationship, or they've betrayed the relationship somehow, some way. And you decide, that you're going to part ways, right? And you can't take it anymore. When you hold a grudge and you don't release whatever that was that hurt you, you bring it into the next relationship. You bring your hurt, you bring your pain, you bring, I call it baggage, with you. And it makes it impossible for you to have to start to lay a good foundation for a new relationship. Let me read what Dee Dee says here. Hold on, Dee. Trying to get it. I agree. That's with anything. Stop giving people power over you. You have to forgive in order for you to receive your blessings that God has for you. Yes. Yes. I mean, there's really not much more to say about that other than you have to forgive. What about when we struggle for forgiveness, to forgive someone? Why do you feel like we do struggle with that? I should have eaten something this morning, guys. My stomach is talking to me and it hurts. Why do we struggle to forgive? Is it because of the hurt? Think about this. You are teetering in a relationship where, and this could be a familial relationship. It could be, a spouse, a significant other, a friend. And, there's tension in the relationship, right? And in your heart, you really want to try and mend this relationship, but the other person in the relationship is not in that space. not in the headspace to be able to get past the whatever that pain or that challenge is in your relationship. And they say things, and they say hurtful things, and they do hurtful things, and our immediate response to that is that we want to go into defense mode, and then we want to attack back. That's what we want to do. How do we refrain in the heat of the moment from that type of retaliation, whether it be verbal or physical or whatever? How do we look inside of ourselves and say, I forgive you, just like Jesus said, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? How do we do that? How do we find that strength? Andy says, so true, but so hard. Years ago, I had an administrator who got mad at me for something really stupid and basically drove me out of the school I had worked for 8 years. I was so mad. And for years, when anyone talked about forgiving, I would think of this man and think, no way, I'm not forgiving. But it was only hurting me. After I was gone, I'm sure he never gave me a second thought. Like you said, once I let it go, it was a weight lifted off of my shoulders, not his. Yeah. Yeah. I was in a situation one time before where, someone wronged me, and this was really before I feel like I renewed my relationship with God. I really do. This happened in a time in my life where, I had been through so much that I I had lost sight of God, you know. I really did, truth be told. And I had a difficult time. I had some things that sort of happened with different people in my life, friendships and stuff, um and I used to dismiss everybody, everybody, you know. I went into this place of, you strike me once, there was no forgiving. I was just done. I was just done. And then I began to feel lonely, I began to feel lonely, and like I had really, like so many people, because in a harsh world, even whether it's intentional or unintentional, people will hurt you, it's just what it is. And, if you were like I was, 15 years ago, maybe even longer, I don't know, where if you did something to hurt me, I was just done with you. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a person who argues and confronts, confrontational, and all of that. Back then. Now I like to talk things out, but back then that's not where I was. That wasn't a place I was in. And so you did something that hurt me, and I was just goodbye, moving on. And but what I found is that that's a lonely place to be in. It feels so much better to embrace what has happened and talk through it. Like, I feel better as a person, so much better as a person, when, I've given an opportunity to hear another person out and to understand and embrace where they were when that happens. It's a burden that's lifted. And unless you've been in that place where you've never forgiven before, it's hard to really understand or know the difference. But it is like a boulder has been lifted from your shoulders, There's something to be said about taking the higher road, taking the high road. It gives you a sense of freedom is what's coming to mind, but I don't think that's the right word. It's just, you feel weightless, you know, weightless, you can float from it. It's I don't know how to explain it, but yes, I agree with you 100%. Let's see what Dee Dee says here. Dee Dee says, we try to handle things our way instead of taking it to the one who is a mighty healer. That's really the only way I deal with any issues. That's just me. I agree, Dee Dee. I agree, but look, I'm not saying but I don't know what other way to say it. There are some people, you being one of those people, and me being one of those people now in my life, that know how to do that. And for us, it seems really simple. Just take it to the Lord and move on, you know? But I feel like it takes something. It takes the touch of God, to be able um, to take it there. That's not something that we have naturally for some reason. I don't know. We're not born with that ability to of patience and letting go. You know. Case in point, again, I'm going to put myself on blast here because that's the best thing to do. People don't get offended when you put yourself on blast. But for a very long time, I was so uptight with things, and I was holding on to so much that I had to take antidepressants, to just be able to see things in a clearer manner, and not to be so uptight, and not to and to be able to to give those things to God, like to have the clarity to be able to do that. you know Maybe it didn't need to be the pill. Maybe I just needed to talk to the pastor more, or whatever. But I will say that you know taking that anti depressant during that time really helped me to kind of just have some clarity, and open my mind up to receiving, you know, and embracing the spiritual power. It helped me, I'm not gonna lie, it did. And so I guess what I'm saying is that not everyone can find that power within themselves to take it to God, you know? And that's really, truly, one of the reasons why I had that prayer this morning, because it takes a village of prayer, you know? If you have someone in your life that is suffering because of grudges and depression and, anger of the things that they've encountered in their life, we have to pray for them. We have to pray for them. Lacey says, yes, it's a lonely place to hold it in and hang on to the anger. Spent 20 years holding on to it towards my father. I'm in a better place because I forgave him and accepted that I'll never get the apology that I wanted. I don't need it now. It doesn't hold me back anymore. Because you're not imprisoned by, you know, not being able to forgive. I mean, it is a prison. It is a prison that traps you. And it's a vicious cycle. And when you learn to let go, your life is so much easier. Dee Dee says, yes, you have to give yourself to him totally and then you can move on. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, back to Reflections of a Man, it is hard to forgive, you know. It's hard to take the bullets because that's what you feel like. You know, you feel like you're taking a bullet, you know, that somebody's in not a not so good place in their life and they're putting you you become the face of their anger. And they can say some very hurtful things and do some very hurtful things to you, and it takes a lot, you know. And I again, I'm going to go back to spiritual power. It takes a lot of spiritual reinforcement to be able to deal with that and see it from the perspective of, and not take it personally, I guess is where I want to go with this, you know. Not take it personally, you know. If you can separate yourself from the daggers that are being thrown at you, and and concentrate on the fact that it's not you, it's the other person who has the issue, you know, like we say sometimes, I say this all the time, that's not a me problem, that's a you problem. And, you know, I will empathize with your problem, but I will not accept it as my problem. And people need to understand that, you know, and you need to say that. You need to say it. And the other thing I want to say too is that you can't really walk on eggshells when you're dealing with people like that. Even when you are in a state of forgiveness, you know, meaning you have embraced, you know, where a person is in their life and you forgive them, I still feel like you have to hold them accountable. You have to hold them accountable. So, you know, understand that there is a difference between forgiveness and accountability, you know? Forgiving someone doesn't mean that you don't hold them accountable for their actions. It means that you empathize with the place that they're in their life right now, you know, but you still have to hold them accountable, you know? And I think that sometimes people don't realize that, you know, they don't realize it. That's where the whole forgive and forget thing comes into play. You know, you say, I can forgive you, but I will not forget. And what that means, you know, virtually what it means is that you have forgiven them. You know, you understand, you embrace where they are, you empathize with them. Forgiveness is empathy, right? Part of it, empathy. Forgetting, when you say I will not forget, what that means, what you're saying is that you are still going to hold them accountable for their actions. You know, I will forgive you, but I will not forget. Will not forget doesn't mean that you're going to keep slamming them in the face with it, you know, beating them down to the ground with guilt. No. But what it does mean is that you are going to hold them accountable to their actions. It's just not, oh, it's, you know, let's just shove it under the rug and pretend that it never happened. No, it happened. And you will be reminded, you know, that it happened. But reminded so that we can move past it, not, you know, so I can continue to make you feel bad about it. Because when that happens, that's where the relationship, going back to Reflections of a Man, that's where the relationship ends up dissolving itself, because we don't know how to forgive and and forget in the good sense, meaning, you know, holding people accountable. We don't know how to do that. You know, we don't understand what the difference is. Andy says, Caitlin has a very hard time forgiving herself. If she doesn't feel like she's perfect at karate, schoolwork, etc., she wants to punish herself. So hard to deal with. Sometimes it's easier to forgive others than it is to forgive yourself, at least in her case. Yeah. And we're all guilty of that as well, you know. I think I had mentioned to you that I was in a situation with someone, who's very, important to me in my life, who I asked the question because we were going through some stuff. And I asked the question, if I forgive you, are you able to forgive yourself? If I told you that I forgive you for all the things that you've done, for all the things that you've done and I've held you accountable to, because I'm all about accountability. Um, I'm still going to hold you accountable. But if I told you I forgive you, will you be able to forgive yourself? And that person said to me, you know what? I never looked at it that way because I'm so, um, I hold grudges all the time and I get angry. And, I'm in that place where I, I can't forgive. So if I can't forgive someone else and that's the way that I live my life, then how can I forgive myself and vice versa, If you can't forgive yourself, how can you forgive someone else? So that's where it starts, being able to do that. The fact that, Caitlin is in that space, remember, I'm all about the why, you know, helping her through that is understanding the why. Where does that come from? Does it come from insecurity? Does it come from, some sort of pain that, sorry, the airplanes are going over, some sort of a pain or trauma that she's experienced in her life, you know, that's causing her to feel that way. The insecurity, where's that coming from? You know, I had to think about that, just for myself, like when I'm feeling a certain way, I try, and it helps. It really does. I try to determine what the source of, that feeling of insecurity is, you know. And many times in my case, it's lack of knowledge, it's lack of understanding, you know. Um, we always feel better when we understand what's happening and why it's happening. So for me, when I'm in that space, of anger, resentment, emotional anxiety, whatever the case may be, I try to like self-reflect, which is what all these lives are about. What we do here, we self-reflect. So I try to go back and self-reflect and figure out, why am I feeling this way? Or why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Like, where is this coming from? It takes strength to be able to do that. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need our friends, our best friends to point out to us, what they see, because in the midst of it, we don't see what other people see. I will tell you that all the time. Sandra and Veronica will both tell you. I ask them on many occasions, like, is it me? Or, like, what do you see? Like, tell me, and you have to be strong enough to be able to embrace the things that your friends or the people that love you tell you about yourself. You have to be open, to receiving that, you know, and that's where it starts. And then once you're open to receiving, what the people who love you, say to you about yourself, once you embrace that, then you have to reflect on it. You have to accept it and then reflect on it, you know. And so maybe that's something that you can talk to Caitlin about, Andy. Take some of these things as her mother, as her parent. It's your responsibility. You know this already. You know, to take some of these things that you're seeing and help her to realize that, I usually, when I'm talking to my kids, I usually, just put it back on me. When I'm in this place or when I'm in this space, here's what I do. You're not telling them what they should do. You're telling them what you do. People, kids especially, and adults, they don't always want to hear what you have to say, especially if it's, criticism, whether it's constructive or not, criticism about them. People don't like to hear the not so good stuff about them. But if they are going to hear the not so good stuff about them, then guess what? They want to hear it from the people that they love and the people that they know are in their corner and are going to ride or die for them. They'd rather hear it from those people, than hear it from somebody else. So you have to, when I say you, I mean all of us. I'm just using Andy's situation as an example. You have to be able to express that. You have to be able to express that in a way that they're going to be able to accept it. You're already, one step in or one step closer because they know that you love them. And it's tough love. They're not always going to like what they hear from you, but they have to hear it, because you can't let them go on, out into the world where people are just brutal. They're just brutal, and they will magnify whatever that insecurity is, magnify it by, 1,000 or more. So you have to be present. You have to be present emotionally, physically, all of that, Good morning, Carol. Thanks for joining. I know you're at work, so you probably can't really respond, but I appreciate you watching today. What else, guys? We're talking about forgiveness. We're talking about being able to forgive ourselves, and forgive others, for the wrong and the hurt that they sometimes, put on us, and how difficult it is sometimes to be able to take yourself out of that space. I'm closing my eyes right now because I'm thinking of many situations where I've been in, and I've had to pray to figure out how do I get out of this space? How do I take myself out of this moment where I want to, respond, defend, and attack, so respond in a manner where I am defending myself and attacking the other person. How do I take myself out of this space and into the space of embracing, embracing and showing empathy? How do I do that? And sometimes prayer is not instant, right? Sometimes it's not instant. Prayers are always answered. I believe that. But sometimes it's not instant. So the decisions that you make in an instant have to be careful decisions. They have to be. They have to be. Or else you're going to be saying another prayer asking for God to give you some insight on damage control. you know? So Let's see. Andy says, we tell her all the time that she's beautiful, smart, talented, etc. But we could give her 100 compliments, and all she remembers is the one critique we gave her. We're working on it. Yeah. So what I want to say to that, Andy, is that it's not about telling her that she's beautiful, smart, or talented. You know, people who are in a bad space, those things really don't mean anything. I'm be honest, coming from a person who's been in a state of depression before. The goal truly is to empathize with them. You know, because basically, if she's feeling that she's not beautiful, she's not smart, she's not talented, she's not all these things, and you say, but you are, you are, you are, you are, there's a conflict there, you know? And she doesn't believe you. She only believes what she believes. So, what you have to do is you have to ask the question, why? Why do you feel that way? So you're not opposing, you're not the opposing force, you know, because that just pushes a person further away, you know. You can say, well, I think you're beautiful, or I think you're talented, but why do you think you're not? What things make you feel like you're not? And then you have to dissect those things to the smallest pieces. So she may say, because my butt's too flat. I'm not beautiful because my butt's too flat. Okay, well, what is that? You know, help me to understand what that means. And the more you get them to talk about, like, you know, where they are and why they feel that way, then you can uncover things and you can take the conversation, you know, to the next level. But you got to understand the depth of where their brain is at that time. What else? I don't see anything else. Anyway, like we always do, guys, you know, I think this is probably the reason why I won't be successful as a talk show host, because I can never stay on task. You know, we start on one topic and then we veer all the way to the left and then have trouble coming back to the center, back to the road that we started on. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but today I'm gonna, you know, end here. We were talking about forgiveness. I hope, and also mental health at the same, you know, time. Mental health, forgiveness, all that kind of, you know, rolls up into one, you know, little ball. Um, I want you to pray for someone today, you know, that you feel needs prayer. I task you with thinking about the people in your life who may need to hear from you today, you know, who may need some guidance, some insight, or just to hear, you know, I love you and you're important to me. Nothing else needs to be said. We don't have to talk about the shortcomings. We don't have to talk about, you know, how are you feeling today? We don't even have to ask any questions. We just have to, you know, think about the people in our lives today that may need to hear the words, I love you. That's what I charge you with today. That's your task for today. Annie says, how did you get such incredible insight? Move over, Oprah. Here comes Tiffany. Yeah, it's experience. Experience. That's what it is. You know, I think, like, in one of my earlier lives when I first started doing this, like, can you believe we've been on for like 4 months, guys? I mean, 4 months straight. Like, this is really good. But anyway, back in one of my earlier lives, I talked about the movie Slumdog Millionaire, and I'm not gonna tell you what the whole story is about. But anyway, if you watch it, you'll realize that in the end, the reason the main character was able to have so much insight, and answer these questions that he had to answer, was because of the experiences that he had in his life. It was the experience that allowed him to have such insight. And that's why I feel like these lives are successful for me, because I speak from the experiences that I've had in my life. And I speak genuinely, openly, and honestly to those things. So that's where it comes from. Anyway, I'm going to leave you guys on that. We'll be back here. Guys, I'm going back to 8:15. I can't do 8 o'clock. It's too hard, you know. Recently, I've been working till midnight trying to get this one project done. I've been working like 16-hour days. So, I'm getting to bed like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and to try and get up and get myself halfway decent. If you notice today, I didn't even do anything to my hair. It's just, I got kinky curls today because I just, there's no time. Anyway, we'll start tomorrow again at 8:15 and chat some more. All right. Again, Matt's going to be on. He's wasn't on today. He's promised me he's going to be on, by Friday. So it's either going to be tomorrow or Friday that we get to chat with Matt about Reflections of a Man. I will see you guys tomorrow at 8:15. Thanks so much for joining. I love you all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.